Order. Order. The 10-minute rule motion, desecration of war memorials. Jonathan Gullis.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to create the offence of desecrating a war memorial and for connected purposes. I find myself in the unique position of standing here presenting to this House the Desecration of War Memorials Bill, with the government supportive of the cause and aims in bringing legislation before you. The week of Armed Forces Day should also be noted. To all our service men and women, I salute you. My honourable friend from Bracknell and I have had some very constructive discussions with our right honourable friend for South Swindon and our right honourable friend for Witham about the potential for this to become part of the statute books. Such a bill should not be contentious, and my honourable friend from Bracknell, who is the co-sponsor of this bill, and I are delighted to have the support of across the House for our ambitions. I would like to stress that this should not be perceived as a knee-jerk reaction to recent events, as has been suggested by some media. Back in 2009-10, the former Honourable Member for Enfield Southgate, David Burrows, brought forward a very similar bill with the same intention of protecting our war memorials. Both my honourable friend from Bracknell and I would like to place on record our thanks to him for his efforts and for having reached out to us both to throw his full support behind us. We would also like to thank Lewis Fielder and James Clark, members of the Conservative Friends of the Armed Forces, for their efforts researching, drafting and aiding the Honourable Member for Bracknell and I in presenting this before the House today. Every war memorial in every village, every town and every city across our country is sacred and serves to remind us of this immeasurable gratitude we must afford to our armed forces, both past and present. The passage of time always presents the danger of dimmed collective recollections. Let us not forget the sacrifice and bravery of those who paid the ultimate price, young men and women who gave up their futures, their loves, their lives and their dreams to ensure the freedoms they once knew were protected from tyranny for us, the unborn generations, who sit idly by as monuments dedicated to their eternal memory are desecrated. I will not sit idly by, and nor will I be silent. A lack of comprehensive reporting on vandalism of this nature means it is very difficult to ascertain the exact number of incidents each year. However, the War Memorials Trust does an excellent job of documenting such incidents. It reports that 7 memorials have seen criminal activity since April, including the Cenotaph in Whitehall, which has been graffitied, climbed upon, and the Union flag very recently nearly set alight. In 2017, a woman was arrested for urinating on a war memorial in Essex for the 2nd time. During her arrest, she became abusive towards emergency workers and was sentenced to 1 month imprisonment for the first count of outraging public decency, 3 months for the second, and 3 months for assault and abusive language. How this punishment fits the crime, I do not know. The Bomber Command Memorial in Green Park has been attacked 4 times since Her Majesty opened it in 2012. In 2013, the memorial was desecrated with graffiti, referencing the murder of Fusilier Lee Rigby. The perpetrator was sentenced to just 12 weeks' imprisonment. Those who vandalise and abuse these monuments do not have the capacity to comprehend the strength, the courage and the bravery it must have taken for, in this case, teenage boys to overcome the terror of midnight missions across occupied Europe in a tin can thousands of feet in the sky. Over 50,000 British, American, Canadian and Commonwealth young men lost their lives in Bomber Command to preserve and protect the liberties of democracy, and had the Allied forces not been successful in their mission, make no mistake, we would be living under the tyranny of totalitarian fascist insanity. The price of war is immeasurably high. I saw this firsthand when a young man from Stratford-upon-Avon, Private Conrad Lewis, lost his life in Afghanistan back in 2011. The pain friends and the community felt stay with me to this day. Those of us who value freedom of thought, speech and expression know we can never repay the debt we owe to these men and women. All we can do is immortalise their memory and display our gratitude for their sacrifice. Memorials stand in great, solemn, eternal remembrance of the glorious dead. We can't bring back those lives. We can't erase the grief of families and communities. The very least we can do is make sure that memorials are adequately protected and punish those who would deface, urinate, spit, defile and graffiti on them. These actions, which have included swastikas spray-painted on statues and Nazi salutes in 2020 before the cenotaph, is the price we pay for ignorance and inaction. A blessed bond is formed between our present and our past through memorials. We see ourselves in the names and images of our fallen heroes, and perhaps we pause to reflect whether or not we would have had their courage and their nerves of steel in the face of evil itself. My great-great-uncle, Alan Gullis, who still lives today, is a D-Day veteran, and whilst I could not possibly speculate as to whether I would have had the sheer guts and bulldog spirit he and his brothers in arms embody so fully, the least I can do is stand before you today and try to secure the protection of their memories. My grandfather, Terence Gullis, served in the Royal Marines during the Suez Canal crisis, and my grandfather on my mother's side, William Beecham, served in the RAF undertaking his national service in Egypt. It is an honour to have such brave and committed men in my family. I myself would have liked to have followed in the footsteps of these heroes, but alas, due to deafness in one ear, it was not my destiny. I am delighted, however, to represent the great town of Kidsgrove, where the Royal British Legion have set up a beautiful war memorial garden on their own initiative, which is used every November to lay wreaths and remember our fallen. It has undoubtedly been a pleasure to also attend the Veterans Breakfast Club in Smallthorne, run by Martin Hunt and Paul Horton, which serves all veterans across Stoke-on-Trent, as a way of bringing our heroes together to share their stories and lend one another support. Dotted across this country, there are extraordinary examples of individuals and community groups banding together to honour the dead. Every year, as I don my poppy, it brings me a great sense of pride and joy to see so many others doing the same. So I am asking the House to do the respectable thing, the right thing, and back this bill to create an explicit offence, distinguishable from damage to public property. Let us join our friends in Australia, the United States and Canada and pay the respect we owe to those who died in the freedom fight against tyranny. Although there is provision within existing legislation to hold criminals to account for the damage of property, and offenders have been successfully prosecuted, relatively few are held to account for the severity of the aggravating circumstances that come with criminally damaging something as sacred to the nation as war memorials. This bill proposes, in addition to the formation of a specific offence relating to unlawful damage done to a war memorial, the exemption of damages to war memorials from the £5,000 damages threshold required under the Criminal Damages Act 1971, the removal of a maximum fine in favour of an unlimited fine, and the establishing of a maximum custodial sentence to 10 years imprisonment. Unlike some media reports, we are not calling for all offences to be met with 10 years imprisonment, but we are enabling our judiciary to use their discretion about whether or not the offence is worthy of being moved to the Crown Court, without the £5,000 threshold barrier blocking its way. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to praise my partner and friend in this proposal, the Honourable Member for Bracknell. He has an outstanding record as a public servant, with 27 years of military service under his belt. In this House, he serves as Chair of the Armed Forces Covenant APPG and remains unrivalled in his passion for veterans, the Commonwealth and remembrance. It is a privilege to know and work with him as a fellow member of the 2019 intake. My honourable friend perhaps will be blushing at such unreserved praise. However, it is certain that he is cut from the same cloth as those whose memories I stand here advocating to protect and preserve. I thank him wholeheartedly for his service and his help in laying this bill before you. I want to see the deterrence of criminal damage being done to the memory of our glorious dead, and I hope this House will support me in that endeavour. Yeah.